Before the mighty pharaohs of Egypt, there was another kingdom of kings, queens, and warriors. This was the Kingdom of Kush, an African empire older than Rome, richer than most European kingdoms, and home to a culture so powerful it rivaled its northern neighbor Egypt. In today's journey through the Calabash Diaries, we unlock secrets buried in Nubian sands, how Kush rose from humble beginnings to dominate the Nile, its legendary wealth in gold, iron, and elephants, the fierce Kandak queens who defied Roman invaders, and the events that led to its fall. Pack your curiosity, little historian. We're traveling back 3,000 years to meet Africa's forgotten giants. The story of Kush begins around 1070 BCE, after Egypt's new kingdom weakened. Kush's people, proud Nubians, built their first great city, Napata, near the sacred mountain Jebel Barkal. This was no ordinary hill. It was believed to be the home of Amun, the god of creation. As Egypt struggled, Kush grew stronger, controlling trade routes, mastering iron production, and gathering wealth in gold, ivory, ebony, and exotic animals. Soon, Kush wasn't just a neighbor to Egypt, it became its conqueror. Did you know? The sacred mountain Jebel Barkal was so important that Kushite kings built huge temples at its base. They believed the mountain's shape resembled a rearing cobra, a sign of divine protection. Kush was Africa's first major iron smelting center, centuries before Europe's Iron Age. Their iron tools gave them an advantage in farming and war. Trade caravans brought giraffes, ostrich feathers, and even live leopards to Kush's markets. Kushite nobles often kept exotic animals as status symbols. Kushite kings wore elaborate jewelry with lion and falcon motifs. Women painted their bodies with perfumed oils and wore colorful linen dyed with local plants like indigo and henna. The Kingdom of Kush is home to over 200 pyramids, more than Egypt itself. Their pyramids, found in Meroe and Napata, are narrower and taller than Egyptian ones and decorated with African symbols like lions, leopards, and palm trees. Kush was known as Taseti, land of the bow, because its archers were legendary across Africa and beyond. Egyptian inscriptions call Kushite warriors the most feared bowmen in ancient times. The Romans called Kush's queens Candaces, Candaces. One such queen, Amanirenas, famously led an army of warriors and elephants to defeat Roman forces, even blinding a Roman governor in battle. Kushite society celebrated music, dance, and rich spiritual rituals tied to the Nile. Drums, lyres, and clapping rhythms echoed during festivals honoring Amun and Isis. By 747 BCE, Kush was no longer just Egypt's southern neighbor, it became its ruler. King Paye or Pianki led an army north, defeating rival princes in Egypt and uniting the land under his banner. This began the 25th dynasty, also called the Kushite dynasty, when black African kings sat on Egypt's throne. Kushite pharaohs like Shabaka, Taharka, and Tantamani restored temples, built monuments, and brought back ancient Egyptian traditions. They were known as the Black Pharaohs, proud Nubians ruling with wisdom and strength. But as powerful as they were, trouble was brewing in the north. Rare insight. Piye wasn't just a conqueror, he was deeply spiritual. After his victory, he didn't destroy Egyptian culture. Instead, he left offerings at temples and ordered priests to continue their rituals. He even wrote a victory stele, now in the Cairo Museum, proudly recording his triumph. King Taharka is one of the most famous Kushite pharaohs. He expanded Egypt's borders, fought the Assyrians, and was celebrated in the Bible as the King of Ethiopia who defended Jerusalem. The Kushite rulers introduced more African elements into Egypt's art and culture. Their statues show wider noses, full lips, and traditional Nubian headdresses, celebrating their African heritage proudly. Kushite queens played vital roles as regents and military leaders. Unlike in many other ancient cultures, royal women of Kush were seen as equals, often leading armies and ruling in their own right. When Egypt slipped from their grasp, the Kingdom of Kush didn't fade. It transformed. They moved their capital south to Meroe, a city of wealth, art, and innovation. Meroe became famous as a center of iron production. Its skilled blacksmiths turned out weapons, farming tools, and trade goods, earning it the nickname the Birmingham of Africa. Merchants came from across Africa and beyond to trade gold, ivory, ebony, and exotic animals. And in the deserts beyond, the Nubian pyramids of Meroe, smaller but steeper than those of Egypt, rose as symbols of power and eternity. Archaeologists discovered massive slag heaps in Meroe, evidence of industrial-scale iron smelting. This wasn't just a city of kings, but an African industrial powerhouse, centuries before Europe's Iron Age. Meroitic writing developed here, a script still not fully deciphered today. It shows that the Kushites created their own unique written language, separate from Egyptian hieroglyphs. Meroe's queens, or Candaces, were legendary. One famous Candace is said to have faced down Alexander the Great's armies and turned them away without a fight. Festivals in Meroe celebrated the lion goddess Apedemak, unique to Nubian religion. Temples to Apedemak still stand, decorated with stunning reliefs of kings and gods blending African and Egyptian styles. Underrated achievement, Meroe's architects built over 200 pyramids, more than in all of Egypt combined, each with its own burial treasures, though sadly many were looted centuries later. The Kingdom of Kush was more than kings and battles. It was its people who made it flourish. Kushite society was rich with farmers, artists, traders, priests, and warriors. Families lived in mud brick homes near the Nile, growing millet, barley, and herding cattle. Kushite art and religion blended Egyptian influence with African traditions. They worshipped gods like Amun and their own deities, such as Apedemak, the lion-headed warrior god. They loved jewelry, gold earrings, bracelets, and necklaces glittered in markets and at royal banquets. Women in Kush held remarkable power. Some became Candaces, ruling as queens and generals. Unlike many ancient societies, Kushite women could own property, lead armies, and even decree laws. Some Candaces were so feared that Roman writers called them ferocious queens. Daily life was centered around the Nile's rhythms. Festivals marked the flooding season with songs, dance, and offerings to ensure fertile lands. Kushite fashion was stunning. Men and women wore linen tunics dyed in rich colors like ochre and indigo, often adorned with leopard skin cloaks reserved for nobility. Musical instruments like harps, sistrums, and Nubian drums were central to Kushite ceremonies. Music accompanied farming, worship, and even warfare. Kushite craftsmen mastered faience, a type of glazed ceramic, and glasswork centuries before Europe. Their blue-green amulets were believed to bring protection and good fortune. Even mighty kingdoms faced challenges, and the Kingdom of Kush was no exception. By the 4th century AD, the once thriving empire began to weaken. Trade routes shifted, iron production declined, and pressure from neighboring powers grew stronger. A mysterious kingdom called Aksum from present-day Ethiopia attacked Kushite cities, including Meroe. Records describe Aksumite warriors destroying temples and looting treasures. As centuries passed, sand covered the proud pyramids, hiding Kush's legacy for 1,000 years. But the spirit of Kush lived on in the people and culture of Nubia, an unbroken link between Africa's ancient past and its future. Modern archaeologists believe climate change also played a role. As the Nile's flood patterns shifted, farmlands turned arid, forcing people to abandon cities. Even during decline, Kushite artisans continued to craft exquisite jewelry and pottery, suggesting a society striving to maintain its identity. Ancient graffiti, found in abandoned pyramids, includes prayers, names of forgotten kings, and even poetic verses, clues left by survivors who visited these sacred spaces long after Kush fell. Despite the Aksumite conquest, Kushite architectural styles influenced later Nubian and even Ethiopian church designs, hidden fingerprints of their greatness. Even though the Kingdom of Kush fell, its influence never truly disappeared. The Kushites left behind hundreds of pyramids, more than Egypt itself, rich traditions of art, music, and storytelling, and a spirit of resilience that lives in the Nubian people today. Scholars now recognize Kush as one of Africa's greatest civilizations, pioneers in ironwork, trade, and governance. Their queens, kings, and builders shaped African history for over 1,000 years. So, when you see the sands of Nubia, remember, beneath them lie the golden echoes of Kush, waiting to inspire the next generation. Recent satellite studies revealed hidden pyramid sites still buried under Nubian sands, suggesting Kush's reach was even larger than believed. Traditional Nubian music, with its unique rhythms and instruments like the kisar, lyre, carries echoes of ancient Kushite ceremonies. Fun fact: archaeologists discovered ancient board games in Kushite tombs, proof that the people valued leisure and strategy as much as trade and war. In Nubian weddings today, some brides wear jewelry designs almost identical to those found in Kushite royal tombs, unbroken artistry through centuries. Underrated achievement: Kush's writing system, Meroitic script, remains only partly decoded. It's one of the great linguistic mysteries of the ancient world, waiting for young historians to crack its code. The Kingdom of Kush may have faded from the sands of time, but its story still lives. It teaches us about strength, resilience, and the power of African civilizations. So next time someone says Africa had no great empires, tell them about Kush, home of iron, gold, and kings who ruled with wisdom and pride. Thank you for traveling through history with the Calabash Diaries. If you loved this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Which African kingdom should we explore next? Tell us in the comments.